Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about 8 tips that you should consider if you're thinking about retiring early. Retiring early is a huge decision, and if you don't plan it out right, you might have to go back to work in 15, 20 years from now, and it would be very difficult to re-enter the workforce after being out of it for so long. So let's get started. Let's go over the 8 tips. At the end of the video, I'm going to show you a very simple calculation that will give you a ballpark idea if you're getting close to the point where you can comfortably retire early. The first tip is to adjust your Social Security estimate downward. If you retire early at, say, age 55, then you're going to have less high-earning working years where you're contributing into Social Security. When you log onto the Social Security Administration's website and get an estimate of how much your monthly or annual amount is that you're going to be receiving from Social Security, it assumes that you're going to keep working until your full retirement age. So if you're going to retire early, that estimate will be off, so you'll need to revise it downward to be on the safe side. The second tip is to make sure that you have a plan in place and money set aside to bridge the gap for your healthcare insurance until Medicare begins at age 65. If you were to go without health insurance until Medicare began, you would run a huge financial risk. I remember my wife needed 3 stitches in her finger, and it was almost $2,000 from a short emergency room visit that took about 9 minutes. She had sinus surgery that took about 45 minutes, and it was $20,000. And for our last child, she was in the hospital longer than expected, and we received bills for over $120,000. So imagine if something super major was wrong. You risk losing everything that you've saved. So health insurance is extremely important. There are many online calculators out there that will help you determine the pre-Medicare cost for health insurance. I know that Vanguard has one on their website that works really well. You just enter some basic information and it will give you an idea of how much you need to budget. The third tip is to just understand what type of accounts you have and if there's any early withdrawal penalties or taxes associated with them. In many cases, withdrawing money before you're age 59 and a half can trigger taxes and penalties, so it's key to be aware of the rules. There's something called the rule of 55, which is if you still have a 401k at the employer that you retired from, if you withdraw money from that 401k once you reach age 55, then there's no penalty associated with it. You'd still owe taxes if it was contributed into a traditional 401k, but you wouldn't owe the 10% IRS penalty. There's also a rule called 72T in which you can withdraw substantially equal periodic payments where you withdraw money before age 59 and a half and don't owe the 10% IRS penalty. There's a lot of rules associated with Rule 72T, but it is an option worth considering. Tip number 4 is to develop a withdrawal strategy that minimizes taxes. Now, I know how much everyone loves paying taxes, but if you withdraw money from the right accounts in the right order, it will actually increase the longevity of your portfolio. Tip number 5 is to realistically estimate your retirement expenses. One common method is to use 70% of your pre-retirement expenses to figure out how much you're going to need each year in retirement. But I suggest sitting down and creating a detailed budget to figure out a more accurate estimate for how much you're going to need each year in retirement. Don't forget to include items such as travel, maintenance on your home, and long-term care. Tip number 6 is to reduce or eliminate all debt before retirement. Make sure you plan to have any credit card debt paid off, any auto loans paid off. And I know there's a lot of controversy on whether or not you should go into retirement with a mortgage or not. However, if I was going to retire early, I would want to be super conservative, so I would be insured. I would not have to go back to work later on. So I would not want to go into retirement having a mortgage. So I would plan to have your mortgage paid off as well before you retire early. Tip number 7 is to use realistic growth rates on your retirement portfolio projections. Before you actually retire, your money is invested differently than when you retire. So pre-retirement, maybe you should assume about an 8% return. That's pretty realistic. But once you retire, you should reduce the growth rate down to maybe 6 or 6.5%. The reason is once you retire, your money should be invested more conservatively, so you're not going to have as high of returns as you did during your working years. Tip number 8 is to plan for a long retirement horizon. Your retirement horizon is the point that you retire to the point that you pass away. And there's a good chance that your retirement horizon is going to be 30 plus years long. Let's say that you're going to retire early at age 55. I recommend using a very conservative withdrawal rate, such as 3.5%, to make sure that your money lasts for your entire retirement horizon. I know a withdrawal rate of 3.5% isn't a very appealing withdrawal rate, but it's not just a made-up number. A man by the name of William Bengen did an extensive study, and he determined that if you withdraw 3.5% of your portfolio, that is a very conservative percentage that basically gives you a license to spend. Meaning that if you just take out 3.5% per year, you can confidently spend that without worrying about running out of money, regardless of how long your retirement lasts. So for a very simple example, if you wanted to retire early and you had a portfolio worth $2 million, if you took 3.5% of $2 million, it would equal $70,000 in your first year. You could then assume that you'd be able to increase it each year for inflation. That would give you a rough ballpark on whether or not you can afford to retire early. Now, this calculation does not factor in any Social Security or any pensions that you might be receiving, but it should give you a rough idea of where you stand or where you need to be in order to retire early. If you would like me to look at your individual situation to help you determine if you can confidently retire early, please reach out. Thanks for watching.